When Hanli gazed at the sky, he thought the rainy weather would persist, but to his surprise, the sun emerged, illuminating the heavens. It had been nearly 2 weeks since he had unraveled the secret of the green liquor, and anxiety consumed him. Finally, on a starry night, he witnessed the spectacle that had occurred 4 years prior. The points of light densely gathered around the bottle, forming a splendid luminous array. Upon witnessing this wonder, Hanli felt a weight lift off his shoulders. It was now certain that the flask was not disposable, but a mysterious relic that could be reused. After 7 more days of waiting, a new drop of green liquid formed. Hanli was satisfied. This meant a constant supply of precious medicinal materials. He knew that the quality of a medicinal material depended on its age. The older, the more potent. However, most rare materials grew in remote and dangerous locations. Only a few wealthy families dared to cultivate them. Hanli experimented with different methods to age medicinal herbs using the green liquor. He found that the liquid couldn't be stored for long in any container, but could be applied directly to the plants, accelerating their growth. This led him to believe that he had mastered the use of the green liquor. After many successful tests, Hanli pondered the future. He knew the flask was a treasure, but also a source of danger. He decided to keep the secret and use it cautiously. However, he needed to find a balance between protecting the flask and reaping its benefits for his cultivation. As he reflected on his next actions, Hanli realized the importance of continuing his practice. Although he didn't have Dr. Mo's guidance, he knew the obscure formula was linked to the progress he had observed in many ordinary people over the years. Thus, with the 3,000-year-old black grass in hand, Hanli lay on his bed, contemplating his uncertain future, but determined to face the challenges that lay ahead. Hanli watched the bottle closely, pondering his next actions as Dr. Mo's return to the mountain drew near. The temporary security of using the flask in the Shinsho Valley was ensured by the isolation of the area, as Hanli was the sole inhabitant. With this in mind, he knew that during this period there would be no worries about strangers entering the valley, making the use of the flask a safe option. However, Hanli anticipated Dr. Mo's return to the mountain and mentally calculated the time it would take for that to happen. He understood that it would be unlikely to find the necessary medicinal materials nearby and that he would likely have to venture into distant and difficult-to-reach regions. In the depths of the mountains and ancient forests, only in remote places would it be possible to find the rare ingredients he sought. However, this quest would take time, approximately a year until he returned to the mountains. With Dr. Mo's expected return in 6 or 7 months, Hanli knew he needed to make the most of the available time. He dedicated himself to gathering as many useful herbs as possible and planning the acquisition of medicinal materials according to the rare formulas he knew. Each ingredient was a valuable treasure, capable of attracting both common people and the most experienced in the ways of martial arts. Dr. Mo's medical skills were unparalleled, and the medicines that Hanli was about to produce would greatly assist in enhancing his skills and overcoming limitations. These remedies, desired by Dr. Mo himself, would now be manufactured by Hanli, using the precious medicinal materials he had gathered over time. Since his days of studying medicine with Dr. Mo, Hanli had shown great interest in the rare formulas. Although he never imagined he would have the opportunity to formulate them, he devoted himself to studying them and even wrote them down in detail. Dr. Mo, in turn, shared this knowledge without reservation, unaware of the true value of these formulas in Hanli's eyes. The relationship between master and apprentice was complex. Hanli realized that there was a barrier between them, something beyond the usual relationship between master and student. Dr. Mo's peculiar gaze always left him intrigued, as if there were undisclosed secrets between them. This strange atmosphere, persistent in recent years, prevented their relationship from being as close as that of other masters and apprentices. Nevertheless, Dr. Mo was generous in his instruction, never resorting to physical or verbal violence. He provided Hanli with all the necessary conditions for his learning, yet a subtle distance persisted between them. Hanli knew he could not be careless, especially regarding the use of the flask, as he had no confidence in keeping the secret from the astute Dr. Mo. His intuition warned of possible attempts by the master to unravel his secrets, which kept him constantly vigilant. As the months passed, Hanli secretly used the contents of the flask to produce a series of valuable medicines, although he faced various difficulties during the process. Each failure represented a significant loss, but he persisted, aware of the importance of these medicines for his practice and development. Finally, facing the vials containing the precious remedies, Hanli felt a mixture of joy and relief. With these medicines in hand, he knew he could advance on his journey without major obstacles. However, he remained vigilant, aware that the secret of the flask must be kept under lock and key, for even in the presence of a benevolent master like Dr. Emo, caution was essential. Hanli initially had no plans to prepare the last two drugs unrelated to exercises. However, after careful consideration, he realized he was somewhat unprepared in the dangerous world he lived in. Who knew if a natural disaster could occur at any moment? Or if he would engage in a fight or battle in the arena? It would be prudent, therefore, to prepare a magical remedy for detoxification and healing in advance. After all, it would not be wise to risk his own life due to a lack of proper medicine in case of poisoning or injury. Thus, even if it affected the quantity of the other two drugs, delaying the practice of the formula, Hanli decided not to risk it. After all, in life, there are always trade-offs to be made at certain times. When he finally finished preparing the pills, Hanli took a Huanglong pill and a golden marrow pill, according to the method prescribed in the formula. These two remedies were truly legendary, and that night, under the powerful and surprising effect of the pills, he broke through the bottleneck and effortlessly reached the fourth layer of oral cultivation. Upon reaching the fourth level, Hanli experienced a completely new sensation. His senses were amplified to an incredible level. Everything around him seemed brighter, clearer. Subtle details that had previously escaped his perception now became visible, such as the delicate spider webs in the corners of the house. His hearing became sharp, picking up distant sounds that were previously imperceptible, like the rustling of a worm more than 10 meters away or the buzzing of insects flying in front of the house. His sense of smell also became more sensitive, detecting odors that were previously unnoticed. Hanli was amazed by this transformation. It was evident that all the time devoted to practicing the formula had not been in vain. It was the first time he experienced such a profound change, a qualitative improvement that made him feel like a completely different person. Furthermore, he realized that his body felt lighter and his endurance had increased considerably. Now, he could go without sleep for days without major problems. Hanli savored this new sensation in his body and realized that he could now understand details tens of meters away. He felt as if he could control everything around him, and it fascinated him. As he understood the mystery behind his practice, Hanli was surprised by the arrival of his nominal master, Dr. Emo, who had returned to the valley accompanied by a mysterious figure. When he saw Dr. Emo, Hanli was shocked by the change in his appearance. Although he still recognized him, he noticed that the master's skin was gray and wrinkled, as if he were very ill. Additionally, he was covered by a large green robe, leaving only his face exposed. Behind him, a tall, stout figure wore a black cloak, hiding their appearance. Hanli quickly went out to greet Dr. Emo, aware of the importance of etiquette and respect. The master asked about his progress in practicing the formula, and Hanli responded discreetly, not revealing the truth about his rapid advancement. Dr. Emo then asked Hanli to extend his hand to examine him personally. The disciple, intrigued by the master's sudden attitude, felt a little uneasy but obeyed. After all, since reaching the fourth level, Hanli had discovered that he could manipulate the chi energy in his body surprisingly. He hoped the doctor would not notice anything out of the ordinary. Dr. Emo remained motionless, his eyes half open, fixed on the energy pulsating within Hanli. A heavy silence hung over them, filling the room with palpable tension. After a moment, Dr. Emo took a deep breath, as if expelling all the worries from his heart. His eyes, once dull, suddenly lit up, casting a penetrating gaze that made the people in the room avoid his stare. His expression was grim, a clear indication of his dissatisfaction with Hanli, but he uttered no words of reprimand. Instead, he made a dismissive gesture for Hanli to follow him. Obediently, Hanli followed. Though intrigued by the mysterious man beside him, he knew it wasn't the time for questions. Inside the house, Dr. Mo sat wearily in the Grandmaster's chair, sinking into it. His energy seemed to have dissipated, revealing the image of a long ailing man. The mysterious man remained close by, shadowing every move of Dr. Mo. As he sat down, he stood behind the chair, completely still. Noticing Dr. Mo's discomfort, Hanli refrained from touching him with questions, staying in the center of the room and awaiting instructions. The silence persisted until Hanli, unable to contain his restlessness, thought to raise his head to look at Dr. Mo. However, before he could do so, Dr. Mo's cold voice interrupted him. Surprised, Hanli recoiled, his heart in turmoil. Dr. Mo's face had changed drastically, a sinister aura surrounding him. His once dull eyes now gleamed with malice, and his smile carried a hint of sarcasm. Hanli felt uneasy, a sense of danger hanging in the air. Watchful, he grasped an iron rod within reach, prepared for any eventuality. But before he could react, Dr. Mo withdrew his fingers from the acupuncture points on his chest, leaving him unable to move. Alarmed, Hanli questioned Dr. Mo's actions, but his words were met with indifference. Instead of responding, Dr. Mo studied him with a mocking look, exacerbating the growing tension between them. With each attempt by Hanli to appease the situation, Dr. Mo seemed more distant. His once serene expression turned menacing, leaving Hanli with no choice but to watch in silence. In an instant, the room seemed to freeze, heavy silence enveloping them. It was only then that Dr. Mo broke the silence, expressing approval for Hanli's efforts. But Dr. Mo's words brought no relief. Instead, Hanli realized he was at a disadvantage, unable to predict the intentions of the man before him. Mutual questioning ensued, with Hanli seeking to understand what the future held. But Dr. Mo remained evasive, fueling Hanli's suspicion. And so, amid exchanges of words and glances, a power play unfolded in that room, with Hanli struggling to decipher the true motives behind Dr. Mo's actions. The muscles of Dr. Mo's cheeks twitched a few times as he posed the seemingly out-of-place question, "How old do you think I am?" Hanli, taken aback by the question, responded, maintaining his composure, "From an outward perspective, you probably appear to be over 60 years old, but your actual age seems not to correspond with your appearance. Are you much older or younger than that?" Dr. Mo, with a tone of pride, replied, "It's not a loss for someone who has practiced Changchun Gong." A country boy turned so shrewd and insightful. His gaze was eager as he began narrating his own story. He revealed he was only 37 years old, leaving Hanli perplexed. The doctor then delved into his tale, recounting his prominence in the world of martial arts in Lanzhou, Vietnam, years ago. He gained fame and respect with his skills but was betrayed and deceived by someone close. Despite managing his initial injury, he couldn't fully recover, losing some of his martial abilities and prematurely aging. Disappointed with his situation, he set out in search of a cure and stumbled upon a mysterious book that led him to a method to restore his abilities. However, the method had unexpected consequences, leaving him in a state of premature aging, part human, part ghost. After years of searching, he found that the Changchun Gong that Hanli practiced could be the key to his cure. However, he needed someone capable of reaching a certain level within the technique to assist him. Intrigued, Hanli questioned why he hadn't sought him out before. Dr. Mo explained that although he had sought out many young people with potential, none of them were suitable for practicing Changchun Gong. He then encountered a group of potential disciples who, although unable to practice the technique, excelled in other areas. He accepted them, and to his surprise, Hanli showed potential for the technique. However, the doctor confronted Hanli, expressing his frustration with the latter's lack of progress. He revealed that his own lifespan was rapidly diminishing and that he could no longer wait for Hanli to advance in the technique. A recent battle further shortened his life, and he had no more time to wait. Hanli, though maintaining his calm, was disturbed. He never imagined the complexity of Dr. Mo's situation and the depths of his intentions. The doctor's life and cultivation choices surpassed his understanding, leaving him uncertain about how to proceed.